Welcome into Rounding the Bases, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust, the podcast about culture and leadership with a baseball twist. My name is Joel Goldberg, and I have a phenomenal guest today, one who I really got to know when I started my speaking career, and someone that really showed me the way and helped me learn about this industry. And his background is so different than mine because he really spent so many years in the corporate world and brings those experiences and an amazing energy to audiences. I hope I bring energy too, although I have to admit the first time that I saw Harry Campbell speak, I was like, whoa, I have to have that kind of energy. I don't know that I can do it. But what I did come to realize is you have to be yourself. And Harry does that. I do that. And he's someone that I continue to learn from. So I want to bring in right now Harry Campbell, who does so many amazing things from a charitable standpoint too. There's a lot in this discussion, certainly about business and culture and leadership, but also about doing the right thing and doing good. Harry, how are you?
I'm doing so well I can't stand it, Joel. Thanks for having me.
This is like the calm Harry Campbell version, but I've seen him on when he gets on the stage. He's almost like, if I want to use a baseball reference, and I know that you're a big baseball fan, he's kind of like the Rex Hudler in terms of just getting everybody fired up and a lot of energy and passion. And I know that that's, people know you for that, but you have so many years worth of experience and a brand new book, the third installment. Tell me about the new book.
Yeah, I have a series of books. Just did the third one. Get Real is the theme. Get-real. The first one was leadership. The second one was culture. And the one that I just published is mindset. And I love this one because it is about business, but it also transcends that. And in a lot of ways is really about life, because if you have the right mindset in life, I think you can be successful whether you're actually in the corporate world or not. And I love the book. I try to keep it simple, give you strategies that I believe you can use to be successful with the right mindset and help you win.
Well, that was the formula really for all the books, right? I mean, all of those books are just chock full of information that you can learn from in terms of leadership, in terms of culture, now in terms of mindset. But, and I say this in a way of being the ultimate compliment, you're not reinventing the wheel in terms of trying to be Einstein here, which so many authors do. You're basically laying it out with that same high energy and saying, here's how you do it.
Yes. In fact, when I was working on my first book in 2012, Get Real Leadership, I find things that I could put in the book, come up with things that were like a bolt of lightning that would change people's worlds and lives. And the answer is no. Somebody else may do that. It's not going to be me. But what I also decided was it's kind of like that old statement, whatever you need to know, you learned in kindergarten. So I simplified my message. My books are 100 pages, double spaced, for goodness sakes. They're 100. It takes an hour and 15 minutes to read them, but I try to lay them out in a 3x3 matrix. So you have 3 main subjects, and underneath those 3 each, so you have 9 very simple strategies that I think you can put in play for each of them, including mindset. And you know what? I used to apologize for the simplicity of it. Now I actually like it because I'm inspiring and provoking people to do things they know they can and should do.
I love that. And it's interesting too that you thought about it in a different way to start. And I think that there's also a message there in saying, I don't need to do it the exact way that everybody does it, or I don't need to do it in the way that you're supposed to do it, because who's to say, right? I mean, you found the formula that worked for you and that worked for your audiences. I want to really get to talking about the new book, but also your wife and the inspiration and motivation to the unbelievable amount of work that you have done over the years. But let's start with the background first of all, because you didn't just pop up in business offices getting people excited and teaching people. You have a lifetime's worth of experience. Tell me about that.
Yeah, my career goes back to 1985. I spent 7 years at P&G in marketing, or they call it brand management. It's an extraordinary company to start at and learn from. Not to say that staying there isn't the same, but it gave me a foundation. After 7 years there, I came to Kansas City in 1992 to work for Sprint. So everything from 92 on has been here. I like to say I'm a Hoosier and I'm from Indiana, but at the end of the day, 28 years in the city, I think it's about time for me to say this is my home. All 3 of my kids were born here. So the way to think about that is that I started learning in big companies. And then in the middle of my career, I did something relatively unusual. I left the Fortune 500 world and then did 4 or 5 years one of them was in a small business, wildly successful small business. The other one was in the .com world of 99 and 2000. How'd that work for you, Harry? Not real well. And then I ended up going back to the bigger corporate world. But the learnings that I got in that 4 or 5 year period, so between about the ages of 35 and 40, I did this strange thing where I left big company success. And I won and I lost. And it was very cool. And I would say the experiences I had on each end of that, which were in big companies, and then the middle, made a combo of things that I really brought to the Get Real series books because I love doing that.
Yeah. Did you ever think way back when that you'd be authoring 3 books? I'm guessing the answer is no. I don't know. Maybe you would have.
Hell no. In fact, I started to try to write the first one in 2011/12 and realized there's no way. I don't have the attention span. Mine is somewhere between 7 and 12 seconds. And so when I sat down and realized I had a lot of information but couldn't write it, I had a ghostwriter, a Marine rank, and she's helped me with all 3 of my books by probing me, taping me, transcribing, and really pushing me to get the stories and lessons that I have on the table. Without her, there is no way I would have been able to do it, Joel. It's hard. You're writing a book right now. It's hard, isn't it?
I just don't know. And I have help too. And I'm doing more writing than I think I knew I would do, but I've always really enjoyed the writing aspect. But there's no way, like I think I could do it, but I don't know if it would take 5 years in what should take 5 months or what. Like, I mean, we're not writing novels here. That's the one thing. For the people that I know that have written novels, one of my broadcast partners, Steve Physiok, is on the 2nd or 3rd of just an amazing novel that takes place, in a different era in Italy. And I would watch him on the bus to and from the airport, to and from the games, on the plane with his nose just buried in this thing day after day, year after year. And I'm thinking, am I doing this wrong? And it's like, no, I don't have to develop characters. I'm sharing all these stories that have come from people like you that I've interviewed and all that, but it's a matter of actually just collecting it all and figuring out what works. And so and you and I are wired the same way too. And anyone that knows me that's listening, when they hear you talking about having the attention span of 7 to 12 seconds, they're going to say about me, boy, I guess he's doing a little bit better than you are, because I'm somewhere, I think, around like 5 to 10.
Well, I don't apologize for the situation I'm in. I had to find a different solution. That's why the ghostwriter worked for me. But at the end of the day, it's the simplicity of the lessons that matter. And if you can find either the ability to write it yourself or to bring a ghostwriter in to do it, you have a chance to win. And you know what? I love them.
Well, and I know that you've put a lot of heart into it, just as you have this speaking career. And that's, I want to talk about that, and then we'll get back to the new book, because I think this is where it's most important. And there are a lot of speakers out there making great livings doing this, and you may make your living with other businesses, but this speaking has become your mission, and it couldn't be more personal either. So tell me about that, about the inspiration, and then how far that you guys have been able to come.
I'd be delighted to do that. I'm going to go ahead and ask a question that you were going to ask later, because this is the answer. It had to do with the home run in my life. And the theme here is convergence, Joel. I had to teach myself how to be a good public speaker because I had very large groups. I had 3,000 and 4,000 people in my group, and at Sprint and Embark. So I had to teach myself that, and I'm good at it. And at the same time, I love it. And you talk about the personal side. In 2004, my wife was diagnosed with an inoperable malignant brain tumor. At this point, she is doing well. The tumor is not misbehaving, as we like to say. And so what's happening is we have committed ourselves as a family and with a circle of friends around us to try to raise money to find a cure for this dreaded disease. And so I take 100% of my speaking fees and 100% of my book proceeds and give them the Head for the Cure. Head for the Cure Foundation, headforthecure.org, is a Kansas City organization founded by Matt Anthony. And what it does is it focuses entirely on trying to find a cure for brain cancer. The cool thing about it is, when I said convergence, I love doing speaking. I'm very good at it, and it's personal. So the combination of those things is something that everybody should be so lucky to have, and I have got that. I looked last night at the numbers because I knew I was coming on here today. I have now raised $470,000 from speaking and books for Head for the Cure. And the third book had to come out because I got tired of doing the first two speeches, and people that like me can rehire me. And guess what? I am not stopping.
I have no doubt. You'll never stop as long as you have the ability, because that's the way that you're wired. You're not a guy that's just going to sit around. Even if, as we speak right now, you're a little bit on the mend with what is it, a shoulder?
Rotator cuff surgery, yes.
Rotator cuff. Yeah. That's such a pain to sleep with. Anyway, it's amazing what you've been able to do, because it's interesting to me. It's not a charity like, oh, let's just hire Harry to make a donation. It's wait, we have the opportunity to hire an impactful speaker that is going to make us better. And oh, by the way, as we're doing that, we're able to contribute to a good cause and one that's personal to him. That number 470,000 has to absolutely blow your mind.
Yes, I must admit I didn't really set a target because I was so new to this whole world of public speaking that I didn't know what the upside was possibly going to be. And it has been a delight. I have loved it. I have been on the stage with 64 of the highest ranking senior executives from Cisco Systems and Gettysburg, with a general on my right and a general on my left, talking about leadership. I have spoke to 94 fifth graders. I have done a college commencement and all sorts of stuff in between. I love it. I believe in it, but I get goosebumps from every time I speak, because what I know is I am supporting my wife, my family, and something that's very personal, while I'm also sharing my experiences. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up how good it is.
Well, there's no question. And the best part about it is what you said, 2004, and we're at 2020, and she's doing well. I mean, that's fairy tale type of stuff, right?
Yes. When they were able, when Chris had her cranial tumor, so they know it's malignant. You know, it's a slow malignant, and at this point, it's behaving, and we're taking every advantage of that to try to help science find a cure.
It's so inspirational. It's awesome. But I want to reiterate again too that if you weren't doing this, the speech would still be amazing. It's not icing on the cake. It's everything. It's every bit of who you are and your mission and your purpose in life, I believe. But
can I say something real quick?
Yeah, please.
That what you just said is exactly what Chris would say. She would say, if I wasn't sick, as in her, Harry, you'd still be doing this. And you just said that. That is exactly right. And that's the crazy, beautiful thing about the result of what's happening, is the convergence of all these things. Because who knew? I didn't. I love speaking. I didn't know I would get into it, and I didn't know I'd be good at it, but it has worked because of exactly what you just said.
Well, it's the perfect convergence. There's no question about it. And it's something that you're right, you're good at. I've watched you many, many times. And so I think any one of these speeches or books or something that people can learn from. And leadership, it's involved obviously in everything. I mean, you talk about, from a fifth grade class to a bunch of CEOs or Fortune 500s. I mean, leadership's involved in everything we do. Culture, it as well as I do. That's my favorite. And we saw the Royals rebuilt based on culture, among other things. And so I speak a lot about that. But mindset to me seems more important than ever right now, where we're in a pandemic. People are being tested in so many ways. I think mindset was always important too. Tell me about the inspiration for Get Real Mindset.
I'd be glad to. I owe it to Chris for the name of the book. I already had the kind of the concepts in here. let me take you back for a second. So the first two books are more businessy. Is that a word? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
It is
Um,
now. And I told you were like Rex Hudler. You can make up your own words and we understand them.
there you go. And so the first one was about leadership. The second was about culture. And they were not intentionally, but very focused on the business world, because that was the place where I could get my speeches. It was a lot of where my stories and experiences had come from. And that made sense. I get it. And I love those speeches. And I've given them probably 150, 180 times. I decided for the third book, what I wanted to do is do more of a lesson on life. I was pressed pretty hard by a couple of people that know me that I need to think as if my audience is 75 fifth graders, believe it or not, or maybe a load of stay-at-home moms and dads that come to church that have nothing to do with the corporate world. And how would you give them some lessons in life about how to be successful? And I thought, wow, that was more of a challenge because it didn't come from the 35 years of working. And I decided that of course still mattered, because the mindset you bring to work or the mindset you bring to a personal relationship is just as important. And there's nothing different about those in a lot of ways. So I translated what I would say life lessons, mindset is more life lessons to me, and into the non-business world, but also into the business world. And I have way more fun with this book because it feels less, I'm going to use that term again, it feels less businessy and more something that anybody, a broader range of people, can put into play in order to be successful.
I'm just going to coin a new phrase now, because if when Hudler says something that makes you say, wait, is that a word? But you understand it. We call it a Hudism, like a yogiism. So it's now a Hairyism. Like
Okay.
that one?
I can take that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I want to read some comments that came in regard to the podcast. Lauren Conaway says, watching Harry speak is like 5 jolts of espresso. So energetic and dynamic. And she also said, love Harry in his heart. He exemplifies the best of leadership. And Courtney Thomas, keep going, Harry. You and your wife are a tremendous inspiration. Know you are loved in this community and beyond. And I think anyone that knows Harry Campbell has the same feelings. It is, I got to say this before I get to my baseball questions. And you took me under your wing, and I remember we were introduced, and we went out, you showed me the first couple of books, and you invited me to a speech, and I came, and I was standing in the back of the room just furiously taking notes because I didn't want to be in the way. And I'm like, this is how you do it. And I'm like, how am I going to get this kind of energy? I think I'm a fairly energetic person, but I can't do this. What am I going to do? And, ultimately I came to realize you have to be yourself. But you gave me so much inspiration. And then, how many times have I been in the crowd for you, or you've been in the crowd for me? And I'm just sitting there looking at you, and I'm like, man, I hope I'm doing this right. So thank you for all of that, and for helping steer me in the right way too.
You are very welcome. I believe one of the speech you're talking about, it was in the community area in Mazuma.
Yep.
It was one of the ones you came and listened to. And I've had probably 5 or 6 different people over the last few years reference that speech. I don't ever specifically remember what I do and how I say what I say, because I basically kind of, I won't say black out. I go into a zone when I'm doing the speech, because it's important to understand people do not hire me for the charity money. I'd love to say they do. They don't. They have a business to run, and they're trying to inspire or motivate their employees or their customers or their executives or leadership team. They love the idea that I give the money to charity. Don't get me wrong, but it is about 5th on the list about why I get hired. So what I need to do is bring the energy, bring the lessons, make it actionable, so that they walk away going, that was awesome, and the money went to charity. And you know as well as I do, if I banked on the idea that you're hiring me because it goes to charity, I lose. I don't. And that Mazuma one was this strange convergence of a bunch of different people who were there, and it went extraordinarily well. And I still get comments on it because of that. So I'm really glad that was one of them that you got a chance to see me operate in.
That was the first one. And as you're saying this, I'm thinking about it this way. The charitable donation to Head for the Cure is not the what, or pardon me, it is the what, it's not the why. They are not hiring you because of that. There has to be a greater why. And when that why is taken care of, the what or the result happens to be that donation.
Great
And
call.
and by the way, it's more than just that too, because there are people are walking away inspired and better and learning. So that brings me to the baseball themed questions. I know you're a big baseball guy too, and we might get to that in my final four questions, but you touched on it a little bit. What's the biggest home run that you have hit professionally?
That convergence thing that happened, who knew? In the middle of my career, and now, while I'm not working in the corporate world, still continued the ability to be a speaker, impart knowledge, use my experience, provoke, and also mentor people either personally or while I'm speaking, and be able to support my wife and my family and an awesome charity. The ability to have that happen is one of those that people talk about, they want, and I fell into it, and I'm blessed, so I'm going to take advantage of it as long as I can. And I'm looking to go over 500,000 raised next year, and then let's figure out how to get to 1 million. And I think I can do that. So that convergence is rare, and I do not diminish the importance of it.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So you're halfway to that big goal, but who would have ever thought you'd be closing in on 500,000? Actually, people that know you and your push, your desire, and your energy might not have doubted that actually, but it's a big number, and I know that that's got to feel really good. So along the way, there are going to be bumps on the road, and when you're involved in different startups and all the different ventures that you put yourself out there. You have the ability to do that. You've earned that right, which means that you, in baseball terms, you swing a lot, and a lot of times you connect, sometimes you don't. Do you have a big swing and miss and something you learned from it?
Oh yeah. Do I really need to talk about this?
You don't have to, but I'm going to press you on it.
Oh yeah, this is pretty straightforward. So I had a pretty cool career going between P&G and Sprint, and then I had alluded to this. I'm going to talk more about the details of it. And in my mid 30s, I decided I wanted to be a small business owner, and it was very cool. I resigned from Sprint, and I became the co-owner of a sports marketing firm in Corporate Woods that had 20 people. I was not prepared to figure out what that looked like, et cetera. It wasn't hard work. That wasn't the point. It was just so different from being a vice president at Sprint to being an owner of a 20-person company without an assistant. I had to figure out how to change the print cartridge. Good luck. You have to make payroll, and you have to do cash and all that. Well, we won the Mr. K award. So the swing and a miss was not that. The swing and a miss was that was going well. I am a huge sports fan. And we were being wildly successful. We were by the Chamber of Commerce K Award. I sold my half of the company to get into the .com world. So I want anybody that's old enough to understand what 99 and 00 looks like, 1999 and 2000. Companies that didn't really have a business plan were getting funded, and there were millions and millions of dollars swirling around. And I thought I was going to become a wildly successful Silicon Valley guy with regard to the .com world. Sold my half of the company, ended up being the CEO of an internet startup. Fortunately, it was in Kansas City. I did a couple of house hunting trips to San Fran. If that had happened, oh, Lord, I don't even know. A different world. But I ended up in the River Market, Far West building where Libra One is today, running UClick, which was a spinoff from Andrews McMill. And it was a distributor or syndicator of branded content. If you ran a website and you wanted Doonesbury, Dear Abby, or Garfield, you had to get it from me or UClick, and then we paid the creator. Well, it was a cool business. I loved it. I got to know creators and get to try to build the business. I think we peaked at 50-something people, but the fact is we were eyeballs driven and revenue driven. In 1999, there weren't enough on the internet, and there wasn't enough pay coming, and we failed. We did not build the business at nearly as much as we wanted. We could not afford it. We were running into financial trouble. And so I had to shut the business down. Half the people had to be let go. The other half were folded back into Andrews McMill. And I was 39 and unemployed. That was about as big a swing and a miss as you can get. And I think back and I can tell jokes about it, and I can laugh, and I can say this and that. And I can say the experiences I learned. But let me tell you, I was scared spitless. I didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going to work next, and what was going to happen. I ended up feeling sorry for myself for a short period of time and then getting after it, and ended up going back to sprint. And the story ends well, but it didn't feel that way when I was going through it. It felt like not just a swing and a miss. It felt like someone struck me out like 3 times in a row. Is that the golden sombrero? Whatever the heck it is in baseball. It was.
That's
it
the
was
hat trick, by the way.
Oh,
that's
the
hat trick. I'm guessing that you felt like you had the golden sombrero. Would have been a 5 strikeout day.
Oh, you know what? Yes. The answer to that is yes. It did not feel good at the time. All's well that ends well, but you know what? At that point,
Well, there's also a deeper message there, because we all fail at some point, and sometimes that failure takes a period of time. And when you look back at it years later, hopefully you've pushed through it. It was a moment in time. It was a painful moment in time, obviously, but look at you here now. Easy to say now, I know, in hindsight 2020, but
one of the things I would say is, shortly after I that failure and I went back to sprint, I ended up with big groups. And I always like to say my ability to lead, inspire, and deliver results for a 3,000 and 4,000 person group was in many ways formed by the 4 and 5 years that I had in a successful, profitable small business and then a failed.com. All those experiences go together to make the final 10 years of my business career way, way different and better. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but it sure does matter deeply.
Well said. Last baseball themed question, small ball. This is my favorite. What are the little things that add up to the big things in the world of Harry Campbell?
Oh man, this is such an easy one. I am a sports freak. I wanted to be a pro athlete, Joel, and it was clear when I was about 6 that wasn't going to happen. I was horrible with the sticks and balls. I didn't have talent, but I wanted to do something, so I decided I could become a cross-country runner or a distance runner. I like to say I run the same speed at 10,000 meters as I do at 100 meters. So you're going to crush me at 100 meters, but if we keep going, I got a chance. And the reason I say small ball is I went to Vanderbilt and I ran cross country and track there, 5K, 10K. And I think back on this, and I do a lot, about the little things I needed to do to get better and better. It had to do with your weight training. It had to do with your diet. It had to do with your equipment, having a coach that really uses you correctly and sometimes sits you out of meets. And my whole goal was to do as well in the SEC as I could. I was a non-scholarship runner, and I wanted to finish in the top half of the SEC. I ended up doing that. But more importantly, I want to set the school record in 10,000 meters. And I targeted a specific meet, which was at the University of Tennessee in April of 1982. Okay, I'm old. And I ran 31:11, and I set the record that day. And I ran the second half of the race faster than the first half. And the cumulative effect of all the little things that I did that led to that moment, I'm standing here with goosebumps thinking back 38 years or whatever it is ago, and I still have that feeling. I took all those little things that I did and the same philosophies and put it in my business. Doesn't matter whether it's a small or big business. What you need to do is pay attention to the little things. The cumulative effect of doing 100 little things well is devastating to your competitors, because they may not even notice what you're doing to beat you. It's kind of like in a baseball team. If you hit the cutoff man, if you bunt at the right time, you make the right choice on what base to throw to in the 5th inning. You know what? You win the game 4-3, and you don't go back and say, we won this thing in the 5th inning. But the cumulative effect of doing all those little things correctly leads you to success. And that happened with me in the 10K at Vanderbilt. But more importantly, that's the way I run my business. I pay attention to little things, and it's culture, and it's hiring people that are attractors that you want to be around. And when you have that, it is devastating to other people because they can't identify why, and they're scratching their head. There's no way that company should have beat me. Guess what? We did, we are, and get used to it, because it's going to keep happening, and it's the small things that matter. Of course, you got to have a product roadmap, and you got to have big initiatives. Do not diminish that. But the small things on a day-to-day basis are the things that matter.
I love it. Couldn't agree with you more. It certainly applies in baseball. I couldn't run the marathon or anything beyond 1 mile for that matter, but I'll keep working on it. However, it is there is so much truth to that in just those little victories starting to add up. And when you accumulate them every day, I say it all the time, win the day. You could have a bad day and still win. We say it all the time in sports. You're 0 for 4. You're in an 0 for 15 slump. Well, go play some good defense. Be a good teammate on the bench. Do something to contribute, and that ends up helping. And so that's certainly the way that you have led your life and led your business. And I didn't know that you were such a successful distance runner back in the day, but that'll lead me now to my 4 final questions as we round the bases. And the first one, because I know what a big sports fan you are, this will be a 2-parter. If Vanderbilt in Indiana played in the Final Four or in the championship, I know we got to think, we got to really, envision this. Or if the Cubs and Royals, they missed it by a year, were to play in the World Series, give me your rooting interest. Vandy versus IU, Cubs versus Royals.
I'm going Indiana. I'm a Hoosier. It's so in my blood, it's ridiculous. I sent my 2 older kids there from Kansas City, so I'm going Hoosiers and Royals. And it's stunning to me, I said the Royals, because I've been a Cubs fan for way longer than the Royals, for 30 years before I moved to Kansas City. But I have grown to love the Royals in a way that I never thought was possible.
All right, very interesting. The look on your face, and the people that are listening won't see it, were like, this was painful, a painful decision. But really think about it. If Vandy and IU actually made it to the Final Four of the championship, I mean, you'd be a pretty happy guy, right?
Yeah. 2015 and 16 were pretty sweet years, since I had back-to-back championships for my 2 favorite teams.
You and Ben Zobrist, he got the rings out of it, and you got to be the fan. Okay, second question as we round the bases. I want to talk about a pivot. I remember early on when the pandemic started, and I think you and I were talking, and you said what so many of us said, and you don't need to be a speaker to understand this. This is so hard. I'm not with my audience. It's all virtual. And for an energy guy like yourself, and I get this, it's like being at the baseball stadium without fans, but still having to perform. How have you been able to make that pivot?
Extraordinarily hard. And the answer at its broadest level is purposefully. I've decided I need to have an audience, so you can't see them, but there are 30 stuffed animals sitting around in my basement at my bar, staring at me as my audience. And most of them are sloths. Matter of fact, maybe all of them are, because it's my little guy's favorite animal. So I have an audience. And I also remember that the most important thing is the information that I'm providing to inspire and provoke can be done whether I'm standing in front of you or whether I'm on a Zoom. And what I do is I have to bring it. And so I decided I have to do my pre-speech routine. I have to be just as nervous by caring. I'm getting rated, and I have to treat as if it is exactly what it was if I flew to Gettysburg and stood on a stage, or went to San Francisco, which I did not too long ago. And I will tell you, the first few I did, I felt a little sorry for myself. I didn't do it as well as I should have, and I felt that. And you know what? That irritated me. So I decided that wasn't going to ever happen again. I was going to be me. And if I go off screen because I'm screaming, or I cuss a little more than I should, that's okay, because that's Harry. And I decided I had to do that. And the audience is amazing. They love me anyway. All these sloths think I'm very cool.
They don't talk back either.
No.
I hope not. I mean, if they are talking back, we got some serious issues. All right, third question as we round the bases. I also know that you're always involved in different business ventures. I don't think you're a guy that's just ever going to go away. And I mean that in the best of ways. Some people retire and they just go on to play a life of golf or whatever it is. And maybe you'll do some of that, but I don't think, and I think you and I are the same way like this. You don't sit still that well. So tell me about, just from a business standpoint right now, if you're working on anything or what you have your eye on or what you can share, because I know that you're always evolving.
I have my energy going to 3 specific areas right now. First, not surprising, has to do with the books, the speeches, and raising money. But second of all is mentoring. I love to do it. I don't do it as a business. I'm not a consultant, and I don't charge for it. But I joined the Hellsberg Entrepreneurial Mentoring Program, the HEMP program that Barnett had set up. And I have a mentee, Dan Holmgren, who owns a company in Wamego called Image Makers. And I have a 3-year relationship now that's very formal between the two of us, and I've become friends. And my goal is to try to figure out, if I was helping him run and I am helping him to run the company, what can I do to help him win? I do that formally, but I do a lot of other mentoring and coffees and lunches, because if I'm sitting in the moment and I have an hour and a half with you, I love the idea of how can I ask questions to help you build your business. So mentoring is my second piece. The third one is investing. My wife and I have invested in a few companies that are pretty well known in Kansas City. IdleSmart is one, Super Dispatch is another, and Mighty Good is another one. And what I like to do is work with either the founders or the CEOs of those companies to try to figure out how I can help them. You could call that mentoring, but I think it's different when I'm investing versus when I'm not. And so those 3 pieces, speaking, raising money, mentoring, and investing, is what's keeping me busy now. I won't say that I won't go run something else, because at my heart, I'm an operator and I love running things, but my heart is full right now.
Perfect. And if that changes tomorrow and you want to go run something, you'll go run something. If not, you're busy. You're always going to be busy. I mentioned that. So the fourth question, the most important, the walk-off. Let's talk a little bit more about Chris again, Head for the Cure. And really just I wanted to ask how people can get involved, because if they're not hiring you, but they're listening or watching and they still want to figure out a way because they've heard your inspiration and your energy, how can people get involved?
Thanks for asking. I love ending on this. Headforthecure.org. It's the foundation. It's extraordinarily successful. We started it. I did not found it. Matt Anthony did, but I've been there from the beginning because I was a friend of Matt's. 6 months after the first event and the founding of the org, Chris was diagnosed. So we were all in already, and then we were affected by this deadly disease. What the company, the organization does is it has a foundation of about 30 5Ks around the country to get registrants, donations, and sponsors. The biggest one is in Kansas City because it started here. It's always in late August and has about 5,000 people at Corporate Woods. I'm going to ignore the COVID because we're doing virtually right now. But that organization is so focused on helping fund research to find a cure for brain cancer. It is amazing, and I love it. I'm on the board. I've been trying to leave some, but the whisper in my head says you can't leave. It's too important to your family. And Matt is willing to keep me around, and I am going to keep going after it. Team Chris Campbell, which is what my wife is the founder of, does the Kansas City event, and Team Chris Campbell, separate from Get Real Leadership, has raised over $500,000 for Head for the Cure. So the Campbells, from a speaking standpoint and a team standpoint, are closing in on $1 million. And you know what? We couldn't feel more blessed and supported by our friends. So headforthecure.org. You can volunteer. You can make phone calls. You can show up for a race and help. You can register for a race and you can donate. It is an extraordinary organization. Thank you for asking.
Okay, so to wrap it all up, if people want to get involved, headforthecure.org. That's the simple way to get involved in any way. And then if you're looking for Harry's books, if you're looking to book Harry as a speaker, if you're just looking to learn more about him, HarrySCampbell.com. Get Real Leadership, Get Real Culture, Get Real Mindset is the newest book. HarrySCampbell.com, headforthecure.org. Harry, you're an inspiration. You're a friend. I appreciate the time. I can't wait to see where this is all going. Well, I know where it's going. It's going up, 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 up. It'll continue to do so. But I love your energy. Love the friendship. Thanks so much for spending the time today.
You're welcome. This has been a joy, Joel. I appreciate it.
And we should give a shout out too, as we say goodbye to the Heartland Heroes, because we're in that peer group together. Steve Johns and company. I know that they'll be watching or listening as well. Thank you, my friend.
Peace.
Harry Campbell, what a phenomenal guest. No surprise there at all. If you want to reach me, you can do so at joelgoldbergmedia.com. Again, HarrySCampbell.com or headforthecure.org. That is going to do it for another episode of Rounding the Bases presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. #NoStoppingYou. Thanks, everyone.